A question that is asked about a lot of people is, who are the four Imams? When I was younger, I myself had asked my father, who are the four Imams? These are in Ahlus Sunnah. This is not in the Shia tradition. No. The four Imams, the explanation of them is as follows. The Prophet ﷺ prayed. He fasted. He made wudu. The rules were given to him to convey, and he conveyed them. Then there were different companions, approximately 200 of them, who reached the level of ijtihad, becoming jurists. They could go to the Quran and they could, depending on the hadiths they had heard, they could deduce judgments. Someone might say, why didn't they just ask the Prophet ﷺ? Well, they did. But then those that came after them didn't hear from the Prophet ﷺ. So they took the knowledge from the companions. And like this, the scholars, the people who were seeking knowledge at first, were taking knowledge from other people. Now these other people, depending on how much they had heard, how many hadiths had reached them, how many they considered strong and reliable, depending on that, and depending on their own level of scholarship, they could make judgments. So each one of these scholars, Al-Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, Al-Imam Ahmad, they reached the highest level of scholarship, which is called Al-Ijtihad al-Mutlaq. So they are qualified to go to the Quran, to go to the hadiths that reach them and deduce judgments. The Prophet ﷺ said that they would be rewarded for exerting themselves in reaching a judgment, and then they would go by it. What are they all trying to do? They're all trying to follow the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, the Prophet did it one way, ﷺ. Imagine these different scholars have different opinions about how the Prophet did it, and hence they differed. So the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا اجْتَهَدَ الْحَاكِمْ فَلَهُ أَجْرٌ وَاحِدٌ. That if a mujtahid, if such a scholar exerts himself and deduces a judgment and says, this is how the Prophet did it, ﷺ, he'd be rewarded for that. But if a scholar does that and gets it right, he actually does it like the Prophet did it, he'd get 2 rewards. So we who are not qualified, we're not jurists, we're not mujtahids, we have to follow one of these scholars. So either you're a Shafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki, or a Hanbali.